quick video about something very amazing or something very intriguing. So I came across, I was looking a little bit through Alexander the Great's campaigns, and I think it was a comment or something like that that mentioned a very interesting thing about the campaign of Alexander. When he went to India, he's according to his writer, right, who wrote down all of his battles, he encountered a huge snake, a huge serpent, in like a cave or something like that. And that was insane. And then I researched it. And there was another historical document that talks about a massive, huge snake that the Romans encountered, which is the topic about the video today. So, why do I think it is so interesting to me personally is because of all the stories I heard as a kid about a huge snake in some random village in Algeria, North Africa. And throughout my life I heard a little bit of those giant snake stories from other people, from like Egypt. I think maybe a guy from Mali as well, but those stories are prevalent in North Africa, right? Or in the northern sphere of Africa, even going up to like Senegal and stuff like that, countries like that. And it's just a story of a giant snake. And when I was a kid, I thought like, well, maybe they just want to scare us or something like that, right? But I don't know. I'm not too sure. I wasn't too sure. I mean, I always thought like it could be the case, you know, that previously some big snakes lived there and some of them remained. I always saw this as a possibility, you know. Maybe like from maybe back in the days 100,000 populated the area. Maybe now it's only like 100 left throughout the whole North Africa, right, which is huge. So yeah, I thought like maybe like one or like a couple of them survived, and maybe the people are telling the truth. And then I found out that, well, in Algeria and Morocco and stuff like that, not giant, but huge lions existed before they got extinct only in the 20th century, I think. The last Barbary lion was shot. And so there were like huge lions living there. There were huge bears as well, right? And also the African elephants, the North African elephants. So a lot of animals got extinct there, a lot of huge animals as well, and they do continuously find huge fossils of animals in North Africa, right? So that's something crazy. Something to think about, to be honest. So then when I heard the story about a legionary, right, a Roman general with his legion in the Punic War. The Punic War was the war between Carthage and Rome, where they battled for the dominion of the Mediterranean, or the dominion of the area, Rome versus Carthage. And it was when Rome started to invade Carthage after several battles and invasions from the Carthaginians into Rome and back and forth. And a general called Marcus Atilius Regulus, he led a legion into modern day Tunisia, back then the Carthaginian heartland, right? And he landed, as this map shows, he landed exactly there, right? And he went up and to finally try to reach Carthage. And he took his legion with him. And back in the days, of course, the area which is Tunisia today was much less populated than it is right now. And even today, it's not really crazily populated, but because there's a lot of areas, there's a lot of rural areas still in Algeria and the whole of North Africa, really. But back in the days, like 2,000 plus years ago, it had to be very, very, very loosely populated, right? Not dense at all. So there had to be a lot of space for huge animals and any kind of animals there, right? A lot of wildlife and stuff like that. So it was much more wild back in the day than it is today. And so this legion then landed, and as it went up and came to, I think it came to a lagoon, right? And it came to the River Bagrada, right? They encountered, according to the historical records, right? They encountered a huge snake. A snake that is maybe as tall as this one, but maybe much, much, much bigger, right? I think this is a very conservative depiction of the snake. And this snake already is quite huge, but as the general described, right, as the historical records described, the legion was engaging in a fight with it. So the legionaries, the Roman legionaries, one after the other was killed by the snake, right, and others got injured, and they had to fight this thing off. So imagine how strong the legionaries were, really, right? The legionaries were heavily armored warriors who they fought their whole lives. They had their formations. They were professional soldiers. So those guys, right, the best army back in the day, arguably, in the world, had to fight this snake, right? A whole freaking legion. So how big must that snake really be if you trust the historical records? And let me talk about the records a little bit. So you have several Roman historians who confirm this first-hand encounter record with the snake, right? And it is said that the snake head and the snake skin was held and kept in Rome for display for decades after it was killed and brought to Rome. So, I mean, it's pretty unreasonable to believe that it was a myth if several credible Roman historians wrote about it, and it was kept for decades according to the claims, the historical claims. And it's really, really unrealistic that it should be a myth, right? Because if it was, I mean, people would absolutely refute it. Other Roman historians would refute such a claim if it was for display for such a long time, because all the Roman public would know it, right? It would be like a self-proclaimed myth then. So because it was in display and so many Roman historians confirmed it, that means it's most likely was really true. So that snake had to be huge, right? Roman legionaries, they were so the legionaries were not just good in hand-to-hand combat, right? The legionaries were good in civil engineering. They knew how to build roads. They knew how to build fortification structures, siege engines. They knew a lot about transportation. Each and every single individual soldier knew it, right? So those, and as a whole, they knew much better then. So those guys could fight in a collective manner and adapt to various types of situations. And this is crazy, right? This is really crazy. So they must have adapted to the snake, and if it took them hours and hours to defeat this thing, and they took heavy casualties, then that thing had to be huge and gigantic. It had to be absolutely massive. Yeah, so let me just continue. And I will just give you this is Rome, where they brought it back. So let me just give you an estimation then. Right, so, well, you have this, for example, is a lagoon in Tunisia. And if you think about it, modern days, as you can see, there's a village there. Modern days, probably really very unsuitable for like let's say a 500, 1,000-year-old prehistoric giant snake, right? Because it's pretty monitored, and generations after generations, kingdoms after kingdoms passed there and stuff like that. But if you think about like 2,000 years ago, well, it doesn't seem like it's too unreal. It looks like a pretty good place if there was just such a giant snake to be in, to be honest with you. It looks like a pretty good place. Imagine like a huge snake living there, especially because there's elephants in the area, and people suggest that like titanoboas even could kill small elephants, right? And the word anaconda is believed to come from a Sri Lankan word, which literally translates into elephant killer, right? So maybe those predecessors of the anacondas, those ancestors of the anacondas, were so huge that they did indeed kill elephants, and that's where they got their name from. But that's a theory, like an official theory about the name of the snake coming from the language, the like a Sri Lankan language, which calls them elephant killers. But yeah, so like for a very old, very, very ancient snake to live there, that would be a perfect place, because huge animals would come to the coast of that lagoon and eat from it, and the vegetation, as you can see here, is pretty green. So you would have all kinds of huge elephants, maybe zebras and stuff like that. So this snake could eat very good in such a place. And it has a connection to the sea, so maybe some sea animals would even go inside there, and the snake could even fish. And we don't know, but it looks pretty good. That's just from a geographic perspective. Yeah, so to my estimation, that snake had to be, well, it's said from the records that it was supposedly from 100 feet to 150 feet. I would even go higher with that. Because if you think about it, okay, we have titanoboa bones, right? And I think recently in India there was discovered a bigger snake than a titanoboa, right? Which is approximately like maybe 1.5 times bigger than the biggest anaconda we have ever seen, or almost like 2 times bigger, really, right? But also 2 times thicker. So I think that's still it still can't hold back a legion for too long. Like if you think about the javelins of the legions, the legionaries, I don't know. The javelins of the legionaries would probably kill. They would probably kill off a lot of. They would probably destroy the skin of the snake, right? So I don't know. It could be. I would suggest really 200 to 300 feet. I would suggest 200 to 300 feet because. I think the general said that he had to build a Scorpio or some kind of siege engine, right, to kill the snake. And they had to battle with it several hours, and there was a barrage of javelins. If you know the Roman army, the legionary, they were equipped with javelins, right? And those javelins could penetrate the skin pretty easily. So I think it was like 200 to 300 feet, something like 200 to 300 feet tall. That's my estimation of it, really. Yeah, we do have some titanoboa bones, but how many fossils do we really have? That's also a question. And just because we only found those ones, right, those couple, I don't know, dozens or maybe 100 of those, doesn't mean that the bigger snakes didn't exist, maybe in less quantities. We just don't know yet. We didn't dig it up. We didn't know a bigger snake than a titanoboa existed before we found the Indian snake one. We didn't know that, but then we found it and we saw that it indeed existed. We didn't know that bigger snakes than the anaconda existed till we found the titanoboa. So I would say, based on the historical records, right, this snake had to be huge. And this all ties in for me with the whole creation story. Like people started out gigantic. God created the first people gigantic. All the animals were gigantic at Adam's time. And then the worldwide flood happened, and all the animals and people were still big. Not as big as Adam and the first animals, but still huge. And I think like reptiles get pretty old compared to other animals in general. And I think maybe this huge snake the Legionaries encountered was maybe like half a millennia old, maybe like 500, 600, 700 years old. The flood of Noah was, I think, something around 4 to 4.5 thousand years ago. And this was like 2200 BC, something like that, right? I mean 200 BC, so maybe 2200 years back or 2100 years back. So I think maybe they encountered like a very old snake that was not too many generations after Noah, right? Maybe like 2-3 generations after the flood. So it was very prehistoric, like was very close to the creation. So yeah, that snake was huge. My estimation 200 to 300 feet. I would say, to be honest, I would say like somebody gotta have to search that area, man. I would be ready to search that area. Like go there, go where the description is, where that place is, and start to research, man. Maybe you find something. Maybe you find a bone or something. Maybe you find a whole fossil, right? Maybe more snakes live there. I don't know, man. But it would be an interesting field of study, right? If you can, like, if you are allowed to search there, man, it would be absolutely amazing. So yeah, that's it for the video. Let me know what you think. I would love to go there and search, and I would also go deeper into the Alexander account, because he also saw a huge serpent with his army. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.